Well, hello, traders and investors. I'm Elliot Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets, doing it from a neoclassical perspective. Unlike anyone else, we take a look at these markets, we ask what happened today, and what does it tell us about the coming days. We're using supply and demand on the charts. I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube. It's under the channel L.A. Little. There's a weekly show as well. If you want to subscribe, reach up on the right-hand corner, hit the subscribe button. It's free, it's easy, and it's at your fingertips. As far as what happened in market today, well, finally, some sort of a sell-off. If we take a look here at the quotes on the end of the day here, we actually finally saw, get that out of your way, get my drawing tool over here. We actually finally saw the push down on this market. We had it here on the Russell in particular, right? Russell down 1.97%. NASDAQ finally gives it up as well, 1.1%. Not as much elsewhere, but the rollover definitely in force today. And they started squirming over to the safety of the bonds. Also, big move in the gold market, in the silver market. The commodities got hit, and the dollar was up 0.5%, which was part of what was happening there. So, you know, the big news is here, though, right? Big sell-off finally, or I wouldn't call it a big sell-off. We had a sell-off finally, and the question is, you know, are we going to see some sort of a rollover now taking place in these markets? Is that what's in front of us at this point in time, or are we simply going to rise again? If we're going to look at what really happened today, it was in the oil market. Oil market took a big spill. We haven't seen oil take this kind of spill for a while. We had, you know, the huge run off the bottom, straight up. Then you got up here and you did the consolidation thing, right, on the oil market, did a consolidation, and then took off again. And then we left this little doji up here at the top. Comes off of it hard today. Inventory numbers building up hugely one more time. Now, I'm sure that, you know, the traders are looking at this and they're drawing these very steep trend lines, and they're going to be looking at this price point, right? And it's actually, you know, significant if you're looking at it just from a neoclassical point of view, because that was the consolidation. This was the breakout. If we actually had some volume on this chart, we'd be able to see that was a nice volume push. So the push up, this will be the test on the way back. You don't have any kind of swing points here. You have a swing point high over here. That on the way back could do a full retest regen again, and that's right in this area. So in other words, we could trade back to 36. If you get under 36, the next swing point is way back here, and that one hasn't been tested, and that would be the ideal buy point as it came into this area, if in fact it gets that deep. That's a long way to go still. Let's see if it wants to even get past the first break. But if it does, that's the sort of action you can probably expect. If we turn over to the USO and look at it, kind of the same setup here. You actually have some volumes. You didn't really get much volume off today. You had a little volume on that push that we were just talking about relative to the USO. The same sort of chart, though, and that's the real mover today when I look at these charts. Dollar had a nice big spike up, a gap up this morning, gets over the bearish retest regen. That says, hey, it's going to try to go sideways. So that doesn't mean it can't trade back down into this area, but it looks like it's going to try to go sideways instead of another steep move to the downside. So dollar pops up. That's probably going to help the euro, right? If the dollar is going up, and if we take a look at the euro FXE, on the FXE, we actually had to push back down into that same area. And, you know, it's game. It can come back to here. But, you know, the way it looks to me is you got volume declining as the price pulls back. This thing's going to try to turn and pop and run back the other way. If we look at the commodity index, we actually had a pretty big spill in it today. This thing had ran up greatly. So you come back in today. Swing point high is over here. Had a breakout and a retest already, so that would be the second retest back, which means it could get to the bottom and that would be about 1831. As I said, the gold market traded down today, a pretty big gap down, still in that big range I've talked about before. And finally, the gold stocks really got hammered today. It's been a while since they've done that, and they're coming back down into that area. Let's go to the indexes, though, because the real question is this sell-off sustainable? And I wanted to show, or I wanted to start the show with the oil market, because I believe the oil market is a big piece of what's happening out here. But if we go to the indexes themselves, we look at the S&P 500. Now, last night I was thinking that we could get another attempt to go up and test those highs. Not so much on this chart, but on the NASDAQ. Remember we had the 2-bar reversal. That said, okay, the next bar is going to give us a freebie, and we could get a pullback or a sideways move. Well, it gave us a sideways move. Next bar starts to roll over. So if you take all this off and kind of look at what's happening here, right, you had a huge run up, and now you're getting some sort of a little rollover take place. Now, we've seen it before. It wasn't as steep back then. So the question is will you see a continuation of this or not? Of course, we got all the stuff happening in Europe with the terror situation. We've got the oil now, huge inventories again. Oil was just a matter of time before it came back. I actually did quite a big piece on that this Sunday with members, showing them how that was set up and how that was probably going to fail this week. And if it did, that was going to give us a pullback in the indexes, and that's what we positioned for. So we're getting that little rollover. The question is will you get a continuation? You got a 3-day weekend. So tomorrow's the last day of trading pretty much around the world. Then you got Easter, Good Friday, Easter. Some of the European markets are off on Monday as well. And so there's going to be a lot of pressure on anyone long after this kind of a run-up and with some weakness today to stay in this market, right? I mean, you had a huge run. Now you're starting to get a pullback. Are you going to just stay and do nothing? Well, some may not. And I think you're going to see this rollover try to continue tomorrow. The real important thing, if we look at it, and I'm not going to point it out on every chart, but you're going to have this situation on almost all the charts, both the indexes and the sectors. That's a 2-bar reversal setting up if we do stay lower tomorrow. And lower to me means that you stay under the prior bar's high. So in other words, here on the S&P, that's 2052. We closed it at 2036. You'd have to gain about 16 points to nullify that. It's a 2-bar because it's a fast directional move straight up, right? And now you do an over and an under, and your volume is going to be lighter this week. That's a 2-bar. And you're going to see it on almost all these charts, and that says you could get a larger pullback if, in fact, the pullback does get going. If we look at the NASDAQ, I was saying the NASDAQ was down a little bit more than the S&P, so you didn't ever even get a signal there. It just came off, volume expanding a little bit on the S&P, on the NASDAQ, on the NDX, and then we finally go to the Russell, which took the brunt of the action today. Now look at the Russell compared to everything else you've been looking at. Russell has gone sideways, right? Compare that back, if you want, compare it back to the S&P chart, and I'll pull up the S&P chart here and show it to you. Let me grab it and just sling it over there. Look at this chart, right? Exact same chart. See what the rest of the indexes did and the Russell traded in this area? That's the divergence that's out here right now. That's the divergence that was seen on these indexes. And that, if it breaks, is going to tell volumes about what's trying to happen. And that would be a retest regen way back into this breakout bar here. So we've got the lead index telling us now, if you go back, these things have all changed along the way up. On the way up, this was the lead index, and then it went sideways, right? Then if you look elsewhere, look at this chart comparatively, right? Doing about the same thing, although it hesitated. The Russell just went straight up. If I put the IXIC in here, you'll see quite a bit of a difference in the way it looks, right? Not nearly as strong, just finally got to the same area. And if you look at the NDX, again, the same sort of thing where you're going to see the NDX having not made that big move either. So you can see these were the trailing indexes. The Russell was the early leader. The Russell then played out, and now you actually have the Russell trying to roll over. So your lead index is becoming the lead index back the other way. So if it breaks, I suspect the others are going to come forward and try to join it. And if I wanted to throw more things in here, we could look at qualified trends, but we're starting to get extended on the short-term time frame on some of these, which also suggest you're going to get a pullback, break a swing point low. And if you look at the Russell, where's the swing point low? It's right here. That's what it's going to try to go after and try to break, most likely. That's it for tonight. I'm going to leave it at that. It's going to be a long weekend. Have a great weekend. And I will pick it up with you again tomorrow for the wrap-up for the week. And then again on Sunday. Have a great one. Come join me. Join the crowd and get some of these signals live here at TA Today. Have a great night. Take care. And I'll see you next time. Good night.